Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Your Life, Your Story, Rise Up. I'm your host, Jill O'Boyle. And man, I have taken some time off of the podcast. So this feels really good to just be back with you all. I'm so excited for 2024 and being with you guys this year. I got some great stuff in store and some awesome guests lined up. One that is joining us today. So today we're going to talk about what do you do when the unexpected happens? You know, like when you lose your job, or maybe you go through a divorce, or you get an illness. Where do you turn? And how do you choose resilience? So today I'm excited because I'm joined with Jennifer Merrell to the podcast. And she is a woman that I know many of you that listen to this podcast are going to relate to. Like, I 100% know that you're going to love this lady. But Jennifer, she describes her life and her career as the uncharted trail, a trail in which she used a machete to hack through. If that doesn't get you excited, right? Like, just wait. So with over 25 years serving in multiple leadership roles and climbing ladders and falling off cliffs, she realized one constant theme in her life, and that was she wanted to feel unlost. How many can you relate to that? I can certainly relate to that feeling of wanting to just feel unlost in my life. So her expertise lies in themes of resiliency, failure, and leadership, and she has a special place in her heart for students and women. She's been recognized as a dot connector, as she recognizes patterns, she makes connections, and she is a deeply desired mentor for emerging female leaders. I am so excited for the wisdom and the insight that she's going to bring with us today. So let's not waste any more time. Jennifer, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jill. I'm so happy to reconnect with you, and so proud to have met you through sharing a stage where we talked about really the yin and yang of failure, resilience, and rebounding from burnout, and a million different things that women in particular, but all people face every day, because life's gonna throw some curveballs, and I don't think any of us are getting out unscathed.
No, life definitely throws us curveballs. Just as we were talking before we got on, Jennifer walked into a house with her sink, or not her sink, a drip probably in her sink, and her ceiling has been collapsed. And so she's like, has no floor. She has no ceiling, like, but her background looks beautiful. She found the one spot in her house, right? But
I found the one spot.
Resilience. And so she still showed up with you all today. So that's awesome. That just talks about your character. You're like, my house is falling apart, but I'll be here with you, Jill. I'll be here with you today.
Yeah, and that's a great example, though, of small. I would say for most people, they're going to walk into their house, the ceiling is fallen in. I have 3 floors of damage. And until I got sofas in this room recently, there was nowhere to watch TV except my bed.
Wow.
So,
wow.
And it's the reaction I could have had. Now, I will say, I immediately went, Brett, to my husband.
Right.
Like, we have a problem.
There's a problem here.
And we need to find out the source of the problem, because the ceiling is on the floor.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But the reaction, certainly 30 years ago from me, probably would have been much different than the reaction I did have. Yeah. And the fact that, as I told you this morning, we were talking, I said, I haven't cried, I haven't gotten angry, I haven't yelled, I haven't been frustrated yet. It's all sitting about right here, though. It's just keeping, the bucket hasn't overflowed. I'm just keeping it at bay.
Yeah.
And that does come with practice.
Yes.
Which I have heard in the world of resilience, right? You can practice resilience. Let's have resilience training. Let's pay $3,500 for this course on resilience. And hey, Jennifer, would you be a resilience trainer? I don't believe that you can train yourself for resilience. I can't subscribe to that because you're creating false scenarios.
Yeah.
That's not really resilience.
Yeah.
What I do believe 100% is it is already inside you. You already have it.
Yeah.
And it's a choice you make. And as life throws these curveballs, they're each an opportunity to continue to make that choice.
Yeah.
And as I grew and faced some for me horrific things, and that's all, very relative. Everybody's horrific thing is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's less or more horrific for them as individuals.
Right.
But each of those small things are preparing you to be resilient for the inevitable big things. So my ceiling falling in the scheme of my 52 years on this planet is pretty minimal.
Yeah.
It's going to get fixed. Nobody died. Nothing is damaged that can't be replaced. And it's just a house.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's a great perspective to have, right? Is it causing some pain and maybe some struggles right now? Yeah. But is it the end of the world? No. So
no, it's annoying. It's a hassle.
Yeah, it's right.
It's inconvenient. It's expensive. But all of those things are possible to be resolved.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so good. So good. So yeah, as you mentioned, we had the pleasure to meet last year and we shared the stage together. And as you were speaking, there were several things that I could see in my own life in your story, right? Different but similar, right? There was trials and tribulations that we both went through, but we came out better on the other side. And so I would love for you to share a little bit about that story. But before we dive in, let's tell the listeners a little bit about who Jennifer is, right? If you can just give a little bit of a background of who you, just who you are, kind of what you do. How do you help these? I mentioned in your bio that you have a heart for students and women. Maybe what is it about that? Just anything you want to share, and then we'll dive more into your story.
Sure. In my professional career, most of the things, I started out in entertainment and sports. I worked for the Walt Disney Company. I worked for a professional hockey team. Lots of fun in my younger years. But the bulk of my career has been in industries related to economic development, and that being mostly in the talent pipeline. So decisions on where to grow a company or to place a company or how a company is excelling really has to do with that talent pool. Yeah. And that talent pool is our youth, right? These are our students. From the youngest age on up, how are we ensuring that they are going to be productive and impactful citizens of our community?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Love it.
So my most recent employee role was as vice president of TechPoint, which is an ecosystem accelerator. And the job of TechPoint is really to prop up, pump, and drive capital and talent and resources into the tech ecosystem for the state of Indiana. I loved that role. And I sat in a very unique seat that wasn't there before me and isn't necessarily there now. I sat in this gap between industry and academia. So I worked with major employers and some medium-sized employers, mostly in central Indiana, but definitely around the state as well.
Yeah.
And our higher education, our university and college system across the state of Indiana. My job was to bridge that gap, to ensure that they are talking to one another, partnering, creating solutions, systems, programs that are going to make sure that the college students are getting the education they need for the jobs that we have now and we are expecting in the future. Something like 92% of jobs that we are expecting in 2030 haven't even been created yet.
Wow.
They're going to be new things that we've never heard of. Don't quote me on that stat, though, because it's not in front of me and I might have got it wrong. There's a lot of numbers in my head all the time. But I still work in that capacity as I chair the Digital Fluency Board at Franklin College, where I've built a board of leaders in technology in Central Indiana to help advise the college on placing digital fluency skills across every single major and in every single classroom at the college. And that's something being done in different ways on different college campuses, but not at the accelerated pace and successful pace that Franklin College has had. So I'm very excited about what they're doing.
Cool.
I'm also excited about a lot of things happening at Purdue and Ball State and many other college campuses. So I'm still working in that gap. And I love that work. I love that space. And I love trying to make sure that we continue to close that gap and our young people are prepared for what industry is going to need them. So that's one piece of what I do. The other piece that I do is I speak and I MC, and MCing is great fun. I enjoy it beyond belief. I love standing in front of thousands of people and helping raise money for a good cause. And my speaking actually, I speak to college classrooms and on college campuses, as well as women's groups, specifically about failure and resilience. And my story, like your story, it is relatable.
Yeah.
Because everybody 100%. In that audience, if it's women, they have probably been through or fear something that I'm talking about. And students, I'll tell you what, Jill, they're scared to death.
Yes.
They're terrified. These juniors and seniors in college are afraid. They are afraid they won't get a job. They are afraid their $100,000 investment in college isn't going to pay out. They're afraid of the fact that they're going to be independent and they're not going to be provided for necessarily for those that are provided for. That certainly isn't everybody's case, but there's a lot of fear, and the pandemic has certainly exacerbated that for them.
For sure.
You know, the fear of the unknown is real.
Yeah.
And my story is these unknown things, they're going to happen. They're going to come at you. And you have a choice to get up the next day and do something about it.
That's right. That's right. That's so needed. It's so needed. I love what you are doing. I love that you're bridging this gap. I love that you're providing just your wisdom to that generation, because it is needed. There is a huge fear of the unknown. There is a huge fear out there that I see. Even in my kids are not there. They're little, but I can see, right, that this immense pressure to be perfect, this immense pressure to not fail, this immense pressure to be constantly liked. I mean, it is just a completely different world. And so we need people like you that are out there explaining, like, hey, it's not like when or it's not if you're going to fail, it's when you're going to fail, right? You're going to fail, and that's okay. And guess what? You're going to learn the greatest things a lot of times from your failures, and you're going to get back up, right? So hugely needed.
And failure, here's the thing, Jill, is a lot of students have had tremendous success, right? They've made it to a university because of their success. They've had success maybe in athletics and academics and whatever it is. They're not feeling that successful though, which is really weird. And I'm going to tangent over, a lot of that social media and this immediate gratification of like, you're so pretty, you're so hot, you're so whatever, you're a great athlete, you know, your hair looks great, I'm so glad you have a Gucci belt on. That's all garbage, right? But it's very real to them, right?
Yeah.
But reality, what is real and reality is that we're going to fail a lot more than success. There's a whole nother tangent there about redefining success. And that's something I'm going to dive into in 2024 is let's talk about redefining success. People have talked about it, but we're not doing it.
That is good.
And however we're talking about it, we're not talking about it in the right way, in the candid way, in the reality, how it feels and what it looks like. Because we're going to have to really commit to throwing out our ideas, throwing out ideas about success and throwing out our ideas about failure. I've been in tech, and there's sort of that entrepreneurial tech spirit, like fail first, fail fast, fail first, fail. Well, that's about product failure, right? Keep trying and trying, like Edison and the light bulb, right? You keep trying it a million times until you get it right. But how does that feel in life, right? When maybe you're not making the money you thought you should be making or would be making when you're 24 years old. Or you don't have that title. I read a meme on Instagram the other day, and it was a Gen Z person, having a rant, which we all have, so we'll
Yep.
just call it what it is,
Yep.
about $75,000 isn't enough to live on, and throwing out what their apartment rent was and their car payment and their student loan, da 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 da. And I really wanted to say, dude, I can help you with that, because I had 2 kids and was a single mom after my divorce, working 2 jobs, and I was raising those kids on less than $60,000 a year at one point, and I was not in debt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was feeding them, and they weren't eating steak. So I can help you with your budget. If you, single person with a roommate, can't live on $75,000 a year. And secondly, let's hone in your little expectations of the fact that you have 1 or 2 years of experience and a college degree, and you think you deserve
Right.
$75,000 salary for
Right.
showing up and doing your job.
Right.
Okay. If you think you deserve $300,000, then you need to go commission, straight commission. And then you go out there and you grind for every dime in your pocket.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't think you've got a whole lot riding behind you that says you deserve what more than most of America is making.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And I hate
It's,
to,
it, it's,
and I
but
think
it,
some of it was like, houses cost this much. We should be, yeah, wages haven't kept up with the cost of living and yada, 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 yada. But that's a bigger problem than anybody's going to be able to fix.
yeah.
But there is an expectation level of why you think, and I go back to this Instagram stuff, right? Why you think you should have a Gucci belt when you're 20 years old.
Right. Right. And that's
And
what I was
why do
gonna,
you,
that's what
and
I was
why do
gonna
you
say.
care?
Like, right.
Why do you care?
Yeah. And so like we can blame, right, what's going on in our external circumstances, right? We can sit here all day and blame that, yes, gas is this price and groceries are insane. I believe it, right? I agree. Groceries are insane. To go out to eat for a family of 4 is insane anymore, right? Right. So that can be a truth, right? If you want to say that. But
Sure.
the fact this where you're getting at is there's also a mindset mentality that I feel like is also going on in this person to say like, okay, there's like this part where you say, I expect this, right? I should be expecting this, versus you can make subtle changes and you can do things differently to make it work, right? And that it's not a
correct.
You're entitled to this, right? Because the world is this, I'm entitled to make 300,000. So I think there's a lot of that for sure going on.
Yeah. And it's not just, and I don't want to blame it just on Gen Z. There's certainly across the board, there's a lot of clutter out there. And we're getting some scope creep here, but it does come down to the same thing you and I talk about, which is mindset.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that mindset of what is success, what is failure, what is resilience. Resilience is a mindset, and you get to choose. And
you choose it.
You choose that mindset. You choose that, yes, this bad thing happened to me. I'm going to sit in the suck for my 5 minutes, cry to myself in my shower. And then the next day, I'm going to put my big girl panties on.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And I'm going to say, what are the solutions? Where do I go next? And go do it.
Yes.
You choose
it.
Choose that, right?
Yes.
And as we go through experiences in life, we get, or at least for me, I got better at choosing that.
Yeah.
I got better at it. I learned. I took self-reflection and said, whoa, I can choose to do this differently.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning. I'm still
making
good and bad choices.
Right. We're always evolving. We are always evolving. But I love that word, self-reflection, and really looking at it in a new light and turning it into me of, okay, how can I make this better? What's the next best solution than sitting in it? And so I want to talk about that, because, when we talk about what do you do when the unexpected happens, that's happened in your life many times, right? Through your story. And so I want to let's talk about in 2018, right? That an unexpected thing came across your life, and you faced a series of mysterious illnesses that really prepared you to say goodbye to your family and your life.
Yeah.
And I would love for you mentioned in that moment that illness resulted in the biggest comeback you have ever had to make. And so I would love for you to talk about that, right? What do you do in that situation when you're faced with this illness, and you're given this second chance of life? So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So it certainly, I wish a significant illness never to happen to anyone ever. We hear about people who are battling cancer. We hear about people who are battling Parkinson's, dementia, um, all kinds of things that are really horrible in our world for anybody to go through. And I would never wish that upon anybody.
Yeah.
I had what turns out to be probably decades of an autoimmune disease that was slowly killing me. So we could find actually symptoms, visible symptoms, all the way back to when my then 18-year-old son was 1 year old. So at least 17 years that there were visible symptoms that were blown off as a myriad of different things over the years. But in 2018, it was really the end of 2017, I started experiencing some very strange things. I was out taking a walk in October and running, right? And then November, I was doing the same thing and I couldn't even walk and I had to stop. And I thought I wasn't even going to make it home. I was so weak. I was so out of breath. I felt like I was going to literally pass out and die. Well, maybe I just haven't eaten enough. I was in somewhat of a stressful relationship where the person I was with was not a good fit for me and was himself a very stressed person at the time.
Sure.
And I could put a million different excuses on top of it, but it continued to get worse. I had a really weird pain in my back. I actually Googled, where's your appendix? Because I'm like, maybe my appendix is bursting. Something serious is going on.
Something's going on.
And I remember where I was asking my kids, what do you think? What organ is right here? I'm not sure, but I got something wrong. And that would go away then. Then I felt like I had pulled my hamstring or my groin just so bad. I was limping. I couldn't get through my workout at Orange Theory. I couldn't even row. It was just really struggling. I was dropping weight. I thought that was great, right? I thought it was all healthy and, ooh, good. I'm getting skinny. I can wear the junior size at Target. That's like the pinnacle, right? When you can buy the $20 jeans at Target in the junior section, you don't have to buy the expensive clothes. So little victories here and there, Jill. And I thought that was wonderful, but I was becoming weaker. So in December, I went to see a physician, and my primary care doctor had retired. I got assigned a new one in a hospital system. And she said, well, I don't know. My hands and feet were turning blue. I couldn't feeling like so much. So I came out of a Pilates class, my hands and feet were blue. And I'm like, take a picture of this. I have to show the doctor because it's happening right now. It's like, well, maybe that's probably Raynaud's and you probably strained the muscle. I don't know why you're so tired. It's probably premenopause, perimenopause, whatever that's called. A myriad of things. She sent me to a physical therapist. She put me on antidepressants, and like the first antidepressant made me suicidal. The second antidepressant, I was vomiting all the time. The third antidepressant, I felt like out of my mind. And I'm like, this is not working. This is not, I'm not depressed. She was, I think these are all symptoms of depression. I'm like, I'm not depressed. I feel though, like I'm dying inside. And she sent me then to a psychologist, a mental therapist, because I think she thought I was crazy. And I was starting to believe it. Like, wow, maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am depressed. Maybe this breakup with this person that was a bad fit really did affect me worse than I thought. There's a trauma bond. There's, all these things going on, all at the same time. I was feeling a little bit better. I got off all of the antidepressants. I was feeling a little bit better. And I took my kids to Paris, France for spring break, my son's senior year of high school, Jack. And I know you've got a Jack too.
Yeah.
So Jack's a great kid.
Great name.
So he was 17 and my younger son was 14. And I had saved for this trip as a single mom for 7 years. I saved every single month for 7 years to take my kids to France because that was his dream trip for his senior year.
Yeah.
And I was doing all the things, Jill. I was just working so hard, like we do as high achievers and women.
Yep.
We're just doing the way more than necessary to do the
Yes.
job, to constantly prove yourself, to constantly be striving that you are gonna make it in this world and be successful and make more money. And I had accrued the title by now, and I was making more money by now, and things seemed to be on the up as far as the career was concerned. But I was really failing in my job because of this illness. We were on our way to Chicago because I was doing all the things. I'm like, I'm going to, even on my PTO, do some work in the car. I really need you, Jack, to drive us to Chicago at 17. Why not? You can drive through Chicago. You're just fine. And I vomited in the car. I'm like, ooh, wow. I must have had some bad soup for lunch. Excuse.
Dismissing.
Dismissing, lack of self-care, striving in the career, striving to be the best mom you can, trying to do everything, right? Bad soup. I'm sure that's what it is, right? I don't know. I must have been depressed about this situation over here, bad soup, all the things.
Yeah.
But I felt so sick. I made him stop at the rest stop and I said, can you just see if they've got, I don't know, Ziploc bags in case I get sick again. Really bizarre thoughts are going through my head. Okay. Really bizarre. And then we get on the airplane and I'm literally taking the vomit bags out of the backs of other airplane seats because I feel so sick. We get to France. I'm okay the first day. The next day we walk up to the Arc de Triomphe because on Easter Sunday, we had a private tour scheduled to go out to Normandy and I had to meet this car and I knew I was going to have to take 2 trains from where we were by Notre Dame up to the Arc de Triomphe to find this car. And I didn't want to have to do it at 5 a.m. for the first time. So let's do that. Then we'll walk down to the Eiffel Tower. Then we'll catch the train down there back for dinner. I was so ill looking on the train that the conductor stopped in the subway, got out, came around, brought me a banana, and asked me if I needed a medic.
Get out.
So I wasn't vomiting or anything at that time, but I must have looked so bad.
So
that this guy sees me in the security camera, stops a train full of people and thinks, I'm like, no, I'm fine, but thanks for the banana. But when we got there and we started walking down the Champs-Elysees, I got sick again. I got sick all over the Champs-Elysees. And then I barely made it down to the train to get back. And the next day, I lost the ability to walk. And I couldn't wash my hair. I was sitting in the shower. I remember sitting in the shower in France, trying to wash my hair. And I was so weak. It was like this. And I would just sit there with the water running. And then I'd get out. And I'm like, I've got to dry my hair now. And I'd sit on the bed and just kind of dry some. And then I'd have to take a breath. Like I couldn't breathe.
Wow.
But my kids, man, I wasn't going to ruin that vacation. Wasn't going to happen. Long story short.
Doing whatever it takes, pushing through.
That's right. That's right. Because that's what high achievers do. And that's what women do.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to get up and we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And
we will not show weakness.
Stop me. I'm not.
Yeah.
No weak. I'm not going to.
Nope.
Ruin my kids' vacation. It's quite memorable now. Trust me. So I did call my mom and I said, I need a new doctor and I need to see somebody when I get off this plane. My kids were amazing. I mean, they picked me up and carried me to Ubers. They procured wheelchairs all over France.
Wow.
Unbelievable to push me around places. The private tours we ended up getting, because I think I had a lady come up to me in the d'Orsay Museum and she said, we all have to go through our trials and you're really brave. I think she thought I was like on a Make-A-Wish trip. I'm not kidding. And that's kind of funny to say, but I must have looked so bad. I was about 96 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm 5'5".
Yes.
And there's not a single picture of me in a wheelchair or on the floor. I would stand up for a second and let my kids click a picture real quick, because this isn't happening.
No,
this is just a little blip, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know what this is about, but it's not happening. When I got off that plane, my mother did whatever she did. She got me into this doctor I couldn't get into at the end of the last year.
Yeah.
And I went into her office and I told her, I am dying. I feel my organs dying. And she said 3 things that nobody had said to me. Everybody else made me feel like I was crazy. She said, I believe you. And I was in the ER. Gets better, Jill. They sent me home after 3 days because they decided I had a stomach bug. They couldn't find anything wrong with me. My blood work came back, right? So I went in on a Thursday, came home on Sunday. My blood work, my doctor took blood on Monday, the primary care physician.
Yeah.
And Tuesday morning, she called me, and I'm at work, 7 a.m., buddy, because I'm going to be in there an hour before everybody else, right? High achiever. You got to put in your 10, 12 hours a day, right? Because you're going to do more than anybody else. And I'm going to get up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm going to be on that treadmill at Orange Theory. And then I'm going to take a shower. Then I'm going to put my kids on the bus. Then I'm going to work 12 hours. And I'm going to run them to soccer. I'm going to run them to Boy Scouts. I'm going to make dinner. And I'm going to fall down in my bed at 11 p.m. with my heels and my skirt still on. And I am an achiever.
Yes.
I am successful.
Yep.
She called me. She said, you need to go to the hospital right now. And I said, I don't have time.
Of course you don't. You have too many things.
I've been on vacation. Then I was in the hospital. I said, I can't do that. I'm going to lose my job. I can't. I don't have time for this. I don't have time to be sick. I don't have time for this to be going on. Even though I was failing in so many ways, I couldn't even see because I was so sick.
Yep.
By the grace of God, my very best friend, Lisa Ward, and I will tell you, I'll say her name out loud. She works for Humana, and she is a godsend angel of a woman. She called me to see how I was doing. And I said, the doctor called me. She wants me in the hospital. I don't really have time. She says, what is wrong with you? I'm coming right now. She left her job. She left her family, and her job's way more important than my job. Left her family, her kids, her grandkids. She came to my office. She made me get in the car. She took me to that hospital, and she fought with those doctors because they said, have you been following your diet? Have you been drinking Gatorade? And, they had to bring an EMT in off an ambulance because they couldn't get a vein. And they ended up using an ultrasound machine to get an IV up in through my bones and nerves or something. I had 2 IVs in me, and they're like, well, we're going to have to send you to a psychiatrist. So in the hospital, they're telling me I'm a liar.
Yeah.
They're telling me I'm not sick, like I'm self-imposing this on me.
Right.
And she stood up. She was like, I don't even know what she said, but she was angry. She was mad. And they admitted me again. Chest x-rays, biopsies, ultrasounds. My kidneys were failing. I had 2 IVs in, and I could hear them whisper in the hall. I did have a psych eval. By the way, I am sane, and I can say that because I've had a psych eval that tells everybody I'm sane.
You're sane. Yeah.
I'm sane.
Just put this out there.
I am certified sane, right? So my kids are like, I can't move. I can't go to the bathroom by myself. I'm whittling away to nothing. I can't eat. I'm on 2 IVs to keep my kidneys alive. Wow. And they can't figure out what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
But now there's a team of doctors. Now there's a huge team of doctors. There's a nephrologist. There's the psychiatrist. There's a gastro and blah, 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 blah list. Right. I mean, there's so many doctors. It's not even funny. And so I prepared myself. The second to last night I was in the hospital, or the last night, I can't remember now. Yeah. I wasn't getting up the next day, and there wasn't, my kids knew it. So there wasn't really I'm going to die, I'm telling you goodbye. But when my older son and when he left, he knew. And neither he nor I expected me to be around the next day. But the nephrologist had a hint out of scope. And he goes, I'm going to run this test out of my scope because I just have this hunch. And he did. And they brought a new doctor on the team, the endocrinologist, and they ran a series of tests overnight. Of course, I had like a stent or whatever that they didn't have to poke me to take blood every time. They just turned it on and off. Right.
Right.
And I was in so much pain. I mean, just enormous pain. And I said my piece with God, and I felt good. I mean, I felt like I'm clear to go.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
I was sad for my kids. But there was nothing else I could do. I had fought all the fights.
Yeah.
I had fought everything for them. And I had fought for my life for them, but I had lost. I was ready for the ultimate failure. I woke up the next day and to a shot in my arm, and my brain turned on like a computer. The first thing, oddly, was, I need to renew my football season tickets at Purdue. I don't know why that was my first thought, but it was my first thought.
That's so funny.
I needed to get football season tickets at Purdue because he was a senior in high school, so he's going to Purdue the next year. I'm like, I need to get football season tickets. It was something really weird.
That is funny.
Something about the football tickets. And there was a doctor in the corner. And I said, are you my new doctor? And he said, yeah. And I said, I know you. He goes, you don't know me. We've never met. I'm like, yeah, you play the cello. And he stepped backwards. He goes, I do play the cello. I said, I know you. We've met. I don't know. I said, can I ask you, do you have kids? Do they go to HSE? I'm trying to figure out how I know this gentleman.
Yeah.
Steps over. He starts doing the vitals. And I said, can I ask you if you're married? That sounds like a come on now when I think about it. Like, hey, I'm dying in this hospital bill. Let me hit on you. But I was like, are you married? He said, yeah, I am. And I said, is your wife's name Alex? And he said, yes. And I said, I know you. I've been to Bible study in your house and you were playing the cello in the front room.
Wow.
And those were my first 15 minutes back to life.
Wow.
There is no way, Jill, now I'll cry, to explain that.
No.
Other than divine intervention.
That's right.
So
good.
When I had another surgery in 2015, my good friend Karen had taken me to Bible study where I met my good friend Alex Perry. 3 years later, her husband saves my life, along with Dr. Burundi, the nephrologist, who, and I'll say it was at Community Health Network, and they saved my life. And I did have to change hospital systems and doctors to get there. And I'm forever grateful to their team there. And the nurse practitioner was amazing. Or I guess the PA, the physician's assistant from the ER, she was amazing. And my doctor at the time, Tara Land, who's with another system now, but if you have Tara Land as your doctor, you are the luckiest person on the planet. He keeps me alive today.
Yeah, that is amazing.
I have a very rare disease called Addison's disease, where my brain sent a signal to my adrenal glands and did it for so many years that it killed them.
Wow.
And I had been surviving for God knows how long on adrenaline alone. So I was actually functioning in life in fight or flight for who knows how long, which explains a myriad of things that maybe didn't have to be failures, but ended up being failures that I learned from. Yeah. But also explained how my work product was going downhill, because cortisol is what your adrenal glands produce.
Right.
So if you watch infomercials, they're going to tell you cortisol makes you fat. Cortisol does not make you fat. Okay. Stress that produces too much cortisol can cause that.
Right.
But cortisol itself is the hormone by which your body is able to absorb nutrients, proteins, carbs, fats. It regulates your blood pressure. It keeps the salt, water, potassium balanced in your brain. If your salt and water is not balanced in your brain, you cannot function right.
Right.
Which is why my work product was going downhill. And then during that recovery, of which I didn't have until I left my job, I wasn't able to recover or produce good work product anymore.
Yeah. Oh,
so that is a failure that is huge, right? Because I failed in my career at that point because of an illness.
Right.
And I could have chosen, and I'm not going to say I did super well. Like, I got out of the hospital and no, she told me to take 6 months off work, and I didn't do that. Do you know why, Jill? I was a single mom.
Yep.
And I needed to put food on the table.
Yes.
A roof over their heads.
Right.
And even if I took my one option that was presented, which is the Family Leave Act, I was already told somebody was coming in to replace me. So I'm probably not getting my job back for very long, right? What do they have to bring you back for a day? 2, I'm not getting paid.
Right.
And 3, you want to talk about fear at this point, again, working only in fight or flight. So fear-based reactions, right? Even if I hold it in, it's fear.
Yeah.
An anxiety level that is beyond belief is how I was living my all day, every day. Wow. So even if I did that and I wasn't getting paid, and I may not really get to keep my job long after that, which again, massive fears, right? These are some of your biggest fears.
Right.
Biggest fears. I was literally told internally that you can't trust HR. Everybody will find out. You will never be successful again. Like, I was told this, that you can't trust HR. Okay. So I felt, you want to talk about like a scared animal backed into a corner.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So you're coming out of this hospital, right, with this new diagnosis, and the doctor is telling you to go home and you must stop, right? You have to rest, right? Because if I'm understanding you right, what put you into this hospital, and thank goodness for this new doctor that came and had some kind of intuition to do another test, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Like, he said, wait, we've done all these tests, but something inclined that it could be what is it, Addison's.
Yeah. So rare that my very close friend, so at this time I got a couple visitors. My friend Lisa, my good friend Reggie Henderson, he came and he visited my kids, my family, but never got anything from my office. No flowers, no cards. I got text messages. When are you going to be back? Did they figure it out yet? Are you sure you don't have Lyme's disease? Like, what are you reading? WebMD? Who are you?
Yes.
Right? But not a single coworker, just my boss. Wow. Wondering when I'm going to be back, because we got work to do. We got to run a business here.
Right.
I heard that one too. We have a business to run. Wow. Do we forget that humans are here?
That's right.
I know I'm replaceable. Everybody is replaceable. Okay.
Yes.
I know I'm a hard worker. I know I'm an asset. I know I'm a bright individual. Yes. And I know I've made you money, but I'm still a human. I know you can find somebody else. Okay.
Yes.
But man,
let's have some heart.
Like, there was a real lack of empathy.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was intentional. I really don't. I think it comes from a couple places, ignorance, not knowing how to handle severe situations within the workplace. It's the same reason, like, your mother dies and you're afforded one day off work. Like, do people really recover from the death of a mother or a child or a spouse in one day, and you expect them to be working at full capacity the next day?
Yeah.
Or their job's in jeopardy.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
So the call of saying, how are you? Was it really, how are you doing, Jennifer? Is there anything we can do to support you? What do you need? It was really, how are you? And are you going to be coming back soon?
Yeah. And the mistakes I made, my point of all that is, another very close friend of mine was keeping tabs on me. He was a physician, and he called it when they started running. I go, they're going to run all these blood tests. He goes, oh my gosh, it's going to be Addison's. And I'm like, what in the hell is that?
Yeah.
Afterwards, I said, how did you come up with that? He goes, I don't know. He goes, honest to goodness, it's a blip in med school. It's like a sentence and you move on. There's not very much studies on it. I don't think it's very well understood at all.
Right.
The conference that you and I spoke at, actually, somebody there, and I can't remember her name right now, I'd have to look at my phone. Her life coach was at that women's conference. And this woman called me out of the blue, says, my life coach was at the conference you spoke at, and I have Addison's. She is the only other person I've met.
Wow.
And this made me cry.
Yes.
She is the only other person I have met. We talked for 3 hours while I was driving from Indianapolis to Elkhart one time. And the things that we have experienced and the challenges we face that our doctors don't understand, or just they're like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
Yes.
She has experienced the same things.
Yes.
There are weird things like, I said, do you ever feel like you're just like out here floating, and here's the rest of the world, and you're in it and you're observing it, but you're not part of it. You're kind of floating up here in this. Because I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
My doctor looks at me and he's like, yeah, I don't know what that is. But it's because there's cheap medicine to keep you alive. So they're not going to study it. There's not money in it for the pharma companies, right?
Sure.
That's my theory, at least.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of information on it. It's considered a disability in the UK.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
If I were in a job situation where I was diagnosed with something that now makes me disabled,
right?
Now what happens?
Right.
It's a different scenario, right?
For sure. Wow. Wow.
So the resilience piece of this,
yes,
is that you get back up. So I get up and I'm
Mm-hmm.
told to take off work. And I took a couple weeks off. Then I started working from home, and I was back in that office within a month.
Wow.
Within a month, I was back in the office because it was an in office. This is pre-COVID. There was not a remote solution that felt good for that particular culture.
Yeah.
And I was not doing well.
Yeah.
I was not well. And I had enormous pressure on me within the organization to perform at the same place I was before. And I wasn't there, but I was trying, Jill.
Yep.
Man, I was trying. I was trying so hard. And I wasn't recovered. So my mind wasn't recovered.
Well, yeah.
Not just my body and emotions, but my brain wasn't recovered. So no, I wasn't performing my job well. And I wasn't making good decisions. But nobody was there also stopping and saying, wow, you're not performing really well right now. I'm wondering, how are you?
Right.
I'm wondering if maybe we need to find a solution together.
Yes.
Let me give you some options, because I wasn't in a place where I felt safe enough to give any options. And I wasn't in a mental capacity where I was able to come up with any options other than survive.
Sure.
I've got to survive.
Yeah.
I've got to feed these kids. I've got one going to college soon. I've got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have an option.
Yes.
So again, I don't think that was bad intention on their part. I think it was an overall, all sides lack of experience, lack of caring culture, lack of an empathetic culture.
Empathy for sure. Yes.
Yeah. I was actually told by another woman that I better get my shit together. And I quote, "You better get your shit together."
What? Wow.
And I literally welled up. And, then of course you're weak,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm weak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how,
So yeah, go ahead.
so how did you move on from that? When we talk about
Yeah.
resilience, so you came from a mentality of as we talked about earlier, a high achiever mentality, right? That is your nature. That's how you're wired, is that, in that time of your life, I'm producing, I'm a good leader in my company. I'm valued here. I'm doing all the things, right? We're doing all the things. So you
All
go
the
from that,
things.
right? So you go from that mentality, and you're finding yourself coming back into work, and now you're feeling where somebody's telling you need to get your shit together. You feel like in some way you have a disablement, right? You feel like I can't perform how I was performing, and that shouldn't make you feel in that moment. You shouldn't feel bad about that, right? But I know you probably did, because that's how our
Yeah.
mind works,
Failure. I was
right?
failing.
You are
So
failing. And
I
I
went
know, because
from
I'm a high
death
achiever.
to
So
failing.
failure, yeah, it's a real thing. Like, I know that you have to fail, but I am a high achiever. I'm wired that my mind tells me if I'm not producing, I've accomplished nothing. If I didn't produce something
Mhm.
today, I'm talking like right now, today, if I didn't produce something, I'm a failure. I know that that's a lie of the enemy, right? But it's how I am wired. So I have to constantly remind myself and center myself and slow myself down. I was going a mile a minute in my life. I never sat down. Now I have behind me this blue chair that says, "Be still and know that I'm God." So that literally I look at it every day and I say, "That's right, God. That's right. You're in control. I'm nothing. I'm nothing. Just sit down, chill." So how, Jennifer, do you go for somebody? I know there's somebody probably listening, and maybe they don't have maybe the rare disease, but they relate to, oh my gosh, I can't slow down. I am that person. I'm pushing myself. My relationships are suffering. My health is suffering. I'm forgetting things at work that I usually don't forget. All the things are happening that she's saying, and maybe I have it, maybe I don't, but how do you fix that? What did you do? How did you move on from that?
Well, I will say first and foremost, it's a constant progress. Just like you saying, you have to remind yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I face it, and we'll circle back to that in just a second, because
Yeah.
I was feeling like major issues yesterday of this failure or lack of achievement or imposter
Yes. Oh,
syndrome
totally.
happening. So what did end up happening is we did do a mutual separation.
Okay.
And that did, I got to a point where I accepted the fact that if I didn't stop all things, I was
Hmm.
probably going to kill myself again.
Yeah.
Not on
Yeah.
purpose, not
No.
like, but that this was not sustainable. I was not well.
Yeah.
I was not well. I was not recovering. I was not recovering.
Mm.
Um, and I took 4 months off of life, which I should have done prior to that. But the fear there of not being able to take care of my children
Children. Yeah.
and not being in a good fit work culture for me
Mm-hmm.
certainly was a twofold whammy
Yeah.
that is a death trap for a high achiever.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and in that time, the first day actually, I felt great. And then I slept for like a week. Like I
Mm-hmm.
slept. I slept while my son was at school. I slept. And I really didn't do much. It was towards the end of the year. There isn't a whole lot of job searching you're going to do at the end of the fourth quarter, really.
Right.
Um, then after a couple weeks, I made a plan, because that's when you get back up,
Yeah.
right?
It's good.
You get back up, you sit in that suck for a little bit. I didn't actually feel sorry for myself at all. I actually felt a great relief.
Good.
I really felt like, all right, the weight of the world just came off my shoulders,
Yeah.
and I don't have to perform for this organization in a way that was not aligned with me and who I am and my needs, not the organization's needs.
That's right.
My needs. Is not serving my needs. This is by the grace of God. Right? You have to, or for me, I had to get to that point where I had been there before. I had been through a divorce, where I had been on my knees before the Lord saying, what is your will? I will accept.
That's right.
And it worked out better than expected. This was the second time where I just needed to, and it was easier the second time, right? It's easier to say, you know what? There's a bigger plan.
That's right.
I know I'm smart. I know I'm a hell of a contributor to an organization. I know I've got ideas, and I know that there's a place that's better for me. And that will be a better fit.
That's right. Oh, so good.
So I made a plan, and instead of saying, I'm going to apply for this job, or I'm going to network these people, and I'm going to ask for this job, I sat down and I made a Venn diagram, and I called it the Gen Venn, because I think that that's corny and funny, and I need to find it and use it in a presentation about success and just flip it up and say, hey, here's an idea.
Here it is. Yeah.
I made a list of, here are all my skills, right? We talk about your toolbox and your CV and what do you have on LinkedIn, and here's your skill set. You know, every job you have on LinkedIn, it says, what are your skills that you use? Right? I listed all of those, and then I crossed out all the ones I hate. Became a much shorter list. Right? I can do all these things, but
what do you love? Exactly.
Right? Then I made a list of all the things that bring me joy.
That's right.
Right? So this could be hiking in the woods. It could be playing a board game with my kids. It could be anything, no boundaries, anything that brought me joy. And then I put those things in a Venn diagram.
I love
and
it.
I figured out, whoa, there are here. Now we can talk about the 3 things instead of the 400 skills you have. That's
right.
Great. I got a lot of skills.
These are my core things. Yes.
Here are the things, right?
Yeah.
And then instead of looking for a specific job, again, I was deep into my career at this point. So I was very fortunate to have some really good contacts out there who I just was like, what do I have to lose now, Jill? I almost died.
Right.
Right.
Puts it into perspective, right?
I've been fired. I've been divorced. I've lost my life almost. What is there left?
Yeah.
And I decided I was no longer going to work in any organization that was not going to accept me for who I am.
For you. That's right.
Okay. And we'll talk about that a little bit too, because I have some very strong words about that. And I started flipping. I literally took my laptop around and said, hey, what kind of job is this? What's that look like?
Yeah.
And inevitably, who else should I talk to? And everybody refers you to somebody, and they introduce you to somebody. And eventually I landed a role with TechPoint, which was probably the best fit and organization of my entire career.
Wow.
I went into work for a gentleman who was the CEO for many years, Mike Langelier, and I was pretty balls to the wall. Hey, listen, my kid has a soccer game at 4:30. I'm leaving at 4. And if your core values, Mr. Organization, really are trust, then you're going to trust that I'm going to work my ass off for you. And you're going to trust me to do that job.
That's right.
And I'm going to trust in you to believe in me and support me.
Yes.
And that is exactly what we got.
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
It is exactly what we got. And I loved the work I did there. It was a glorious 4 some years. I worked with amazing people, during my tenure there. Many are leading different organizations now or have leadership roles in different organizations now.
Yes.
We did incredible things. We had an internship program, about 200 interns, and COVID hit, and almost all of them lost their internships. And in 3 weeks, we turned around and found ways to give them work experience, mentoring opportunities, and networking opportunities
Mm-hmm.
during COVID remotely
Yeah.
for almost all of them. And it was a group of people where we had a leader with a vision that could throw the vision out and would give us incredibly demanding timelines. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
incredibly pressure-filled timelines. But we believed and
Yeah.
we did it together,
Yeah.
and nobody's egos were too in the way of getting the work done.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, it was 100% the culture that came from the top down.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that CEO trusting me
Yeah.
that I knew how to get my job done. And no matter where I was or what I was doing, I was always going to get the job done.
Yeah. No, oh my gosh.
And it
So
made
good.
me want to do the work. I wanted to do it,
Yeah.
filled with joy. But the hustle and pace was real. I mean, that was
Sure.
real.
Yeah.
But I did believe,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed it. And that put me in the position to do some of what I do with higher ed and industry now.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. And it also, and here's the biggest part, it allowed me to believe in myself again.
Yes.
It was
Exactly.
a culture that believed in me.
Mm-hmm.
So I could believe in myself again.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. There are so many things. We could spend here all day,
We
but
could.
you said it starts from the culture. It starts from the top down, right? But I want to reiterate the power of also, yes, that's true, right? But you did something incredible there, right? You went in and you set intentional boundaries right away. You said, "Hey, listen, I will work here and I will give it my all, but I also have children at home. I need to be out of here at 4:30 and you need to trust me." And then you talked about core values, right? I can't iterate this enough that finding a company that mirrors the same core values as you is huge. And so you saw that. You said, "Hey, your core value is trust. Okay, well live that out then. If you're going to put that on the
Right.
cafeteria wall, then live it. Don't just have it
That
there
is
on the
it.
wall, right? But actually
Yes.
say, we trust you, people. That's why we hired you, because we don't need to micromanage you. We trust you." So yes, it starts top down, but also I want every single person that's listening here to own your worth. Your worth is not defined by anybody. Oh my gosh, you are so amazing. You're so unique. You are so awesome already. Like, you don't need anybody to validate that for you. You have it
That's
within
right.
you. Jennifer started this podcast with that resilience, right? You choose it. You're born with it. You have it within you. So go use it, right? Oh my
Yes.
gosh. So good.
Yes. Yes.
And I think we need to realize, and I think this world for sure understand that business is personal, right? Behind every role, behind every title is a human being that is doing life. And just look around. Life is hard, right? There are ups, there are downs, but these are real people in your organization that are trying to make ends meet. And you don't know the nitty and gritty of the things that happen when they shut that office door, right? Or they leave and they go home. You have no idea what they are experiencing. So give grace. Respect your people, trust your people, love your people. And I just am so in awe, Jennifer, of you, that you took something that was almost away from you, right? That could have, right? Our mindset is so powerful that could have, as a high achiever, and I know very well, could have been a detriment to you, right? And that's why I love this podcast, is that we talk about these stories of how did you turn your battle into a breakthrough. And it's really stories of adversity and resilience and believing in yourself. And you're a true testament of that. And the
Thank you.
fact that I love is that now you recognize that, like you want other students and women to see that. And so thank you for sharing your story. I mean,
Absolutely.
incredible.
Thank you. Yes, and that is my true hope, that in these stories you and I share, that people can see themselves in them
Yeah.
and know that there's always what's next. There's
Mm,
always something better. There's always something else. And for these students to understand, life's going to throw you curveballs and you get to choose. You
yeah,
get to choose. It doesn't mean it's going to be sunshine and rainbows. And
that's
obviously,
right.
there's a lot more to, I didn't just wake up and bam, and everything was great and good. And, I battle it, we
Yeah,
battle it every day.
that's
Whatever
right.
society's telling us, whatever's in our head, whatever experiences we had, and then digging into, but the truth is, I am valued. I
Mm-hmm.
am worthy.
Mm-hmm.
I am smart, and
Yes.
all the things that I need to be, and successful in the ways we get to choose to be
Yeah.
successful. And that battle, you're not alone in it.
No. Yeah.
You're not
And
alone in it.
right. And there are so many times where I feel like that's the huge piece there is, uh, the enemy loves to make you feel like you are alone and you're the only
Mhm.
one going through this. And that's why I love this podcast, is that if it's just one person that heard your story today, right? There'll be many more, but even if it's just one person that you put an ounce of hope in there, like I think we did our job, right? Like
Yeah.
that is what brings me the most joy in my life, is that I don't know who is listening, but I know that somebody's listening and we made an impact today. Like that's amazing. That's amazing. Just by us having a little morning
Yeah.
coffee chat. Yeah.
I love coffee chats with you, Jill. We should do it more often.
We do, especially now that you're here local in town and
Right?
back in town. So I'll give you some grace and let you get your house all cleaned up, and then we'll or maybe you
Well,
need to get out of the
that's
house and we
right.
should do coffee now.
Right.
Oh man.
Absolutely.
Well, so Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, being vulnerable. I love authenticity and people who are vulnerable, and I saw that in you from the very first day I met you. So much wisdom, so much inspiration. So thank you for coming on. I know that you are a speaker, right? So for people
Yeah.
who are listening, that want to learn more about you, or maybe they're like, wow, we need this in our organization, where can they learn more about you and your story and get in contact with you?
Yeah, thank you. You can go to my website at JenLMerrell, MERRELL.com, or reach out at JenLMerrell@gmail.com. I am
Perfect.
booking Q2 on in 2024 right now. I would love to be a part of sharing a workshop or a presentation on how we can talk about failure, resilience, success, or even the
Yes.
gaps between higher ed and industry, which is kind
Right.
of a different space, but certainly know that nobody is really alone. We're all
That's right.
um, battling. Everybody's story is unique. Everybody's story is important and valuable. And by sharing those things, I think that we can inspire and encourage and show that there's always hope. There's always hope, because
Always
that
hope.
resilience is inside.